GM came out with the specs for the C8 Z06
They sure
yesterday.
They sure did.
It has been all over the interwebs.
5.5 liter, 670 horsepower, 8,600 RPM redline.
That's outrageous.
LT6 is the engine.
Almost 700 horsepower in a still fiberglass. Are they some kind of composite?
It's fiberglass. It's
a fiberglass bodied car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Like, it's incredible.
Have they announced like rough MSRP, like entry where they're going to start?
It's got to be $100,000. It's got to be. The last one was 80.
It's going to turn lap times like GT3s though.
Yeah.
It's going to turn lap times that are comparable with like close to $250,000 cars.
That's
Yeah.
always been the Corvette though.
Yeah.
It has, but not like this. Like they're yeah. But the
Relative
C8,
to
I
the
mean, the
competition.
C8 turned a corner, I think. Like the move to mid-engine. And
Yeah, but even then the price didn't change that much.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it turned a corner in performance and didn't just ratchet up to, oh, now you're into, Like everything has seemed to go that way. Whatever it is, like they bring back a car that was, I realize the Corvette has a through line, but say like the Acura NSX, right? When they decided they were going to resurrect that, it's not the same car.
No.
It's not affordable by any of the people who
No,
could buy
yeah.
an NSX in 1998. It's a different thing. And so like as cool as it may be what they're doing, and I'm not a ton of an American car guy, but as cool as it may be what some of the Japanese brands are doing with these cars, like if it's not attainable for basically anyone it's not as cool. And
Yeah.
the Corvette is attainable by people and that's cool. And the fact that they're still pushing the performance envelope like that is, I gotta give it to them.
It's the highest output naturally aspirated V8 ever in a production car. The only other, the number 2 is the Mercedes Black, which was like 620 horsepower in it.
Interesting. Really? That's cool.
I don't think I knew the SLS AMG Black Series or
don't
the
know.
AMG GT.
No, it was before those. I think it was
Probably the SLS
yeah.
then Black Series.
NA V8 made like 620. This is 670.
I forgot those were NA. That's pretty cool.
That's wild.
Yep.
Did you see? I saw a reaction to like one of the engine pictures that the starter is in the valley.
Yep.
And
Welcome
yes.
to Lexus ownership.
Yeah. Woof.
Sorry.
Yeah.
They don't go bad that often.
They don't have
And
that.
literally everything on that car is a pain to get to anyway.
They don't
That's
have
the
that
least of your
terrible
worries.
start-stop function, do they?
Everything now does.
Corvettes don't, though.
Everything
Right?
does.
Do
I'm pretty
they?
sure you can turn it off, but yeah, most things do.
Yeah, I would turn that off just for the longevity of my starter.
So a lot of those systems, you have to turn them off every time you turn the key on, which is really frustrating. However, most of them, especially Ford pickup trucks, have a convenient little white box up underneath the dashboard that controls that. And if you unplug the plug that goes to that box, it just totally turns that feature completely off.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you, TikTok. I found that. I found that information out on TikTok. Somebody was like, "If you hate hitting this button, do this." And like, camera swings down, and he goes, "Click, click," and like, it's gone.
It's like
And
it's like
no,
the first thing every NA Miata owner does, which is unplug that
Yeah.
horrendous door buzzer.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows where they are under
Yeah.
the dash.
Yeah.
It's the first thing you
It's
do.
the same thing I've done on all my old Toyotas.
Yep.
Buy
Yep.
the car, unplug the door buzzer.
Yep.
Yep.
So you can live with the car.
And like, wildly, I don't think it puts any like warning lights on the dash or anything
That
like
is surprising.
that. Like, you literally just unplug it and it's gone.
Well, that's Ford.
Well,
That if it were a German car,
Oh, dude,
my
BMWs
God.
come from the factory with stored codes. I am legitimately. I am
What
not
did they do?
kidding.
They just had spares. It's just what are they doing in
They're
there?
constantly storing. Like, there's always something. Maybe it's not bad enough to trip the light, but
Right.
there's always error codes stored on a BMW now. You
That's
cannot
terrible.
escape them.
That's terrible.
It's awful.
They'll store a code because they saw another car they didn't like.
Which is everyone.
Don't. If it is not German, It is not good. Says German car. My German accent's very bad tonight. It's probably never good, but especially bad tonight. Did you know, while we're on a quick subject of auto start-stop engine features, did you know Mazda has a system, and it's not in any of the US models, that does it without using the starter? It is compression ignition based. It will actually deliberately stop the engine with with a particular piston, either at top dead center or just after, and then to restart the engine from a dead stop, it will just inject fuel and spark and start on that piston. So it actually plans with the computer how it's going to shut off the engine with enough rotation to come around and stop at the right point, and then just ignition restart the engine without reusing the starter.
And it works?
It works apparently and is used in Japan, and I think maybe even in European markets.
That sounds like something they would probably do with the upcoming Skyactiv X
It
stuff.
wouldn't pass at least when I read the article about it maybe a year or two ago, it wouldn't pass EPA regulations because their testing didn't prove that it actually reduced emissions to stop the engine and restart. Like with that system, somehow they couldn't pass the EPA's requirements for like proving that actually saved emissions by stopping the engine and then having to restart it. I don't know if it's because of how much fuel it had to re-inject to restart it with just compression instead of the starter cranking it or what, but it was like after so many drive cycles and it going on and off, it equated to the same emissions and same fuel burn as idling. Just not having it, which is why, at least currently, as far as I'm aware, no Mazdas have like auto start stop features because they just don't have a system that uses the starter to restart the engine.
That's
as far as I know. Yeah, the latest Mazda I've been in is 2019 or 20 Mazda 6 that came in for paint protection film, and I've never seen the little, the A with the curvy arrow that says turn off this annoying system to like shut it off or anything. I think Mazda still does not have it, and I think they're sticking to like until we can get this cool compression one to work well enough to pass the US, they're just not going to include it.
So they're just like storing compression, basically. They just like leave cylinder one, let's say, compressed.
Yeah.
And then just fire it.
Yeah, and then because it's gas direct injection, they don't have to open the intake valves to get fuel into the cylinder. They just inject fuel and then spark and then poof. It's enough to fire cylinder one and enough turn, I guess, to fire the next one in the firing order.
That's crazy. That's wild that a single piston is enough to get it to turn all the way back around.
Turn enough to fire the next one, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ready to fire all four in sequence.
Right.
And it's only 4 because Mazda doesn't make a thing, at least still right now, I think, doesn't make a thing that doesn't have a 4-cylinder. Though I think the next generation 6 is rumored to have.
It's confirmed. Inline 6.
Is it confirmed?
I don't know if it's going to be a 6, but their next sedan is an inline 6 rear-wheel drive, which is
awesome.
cool.
That's sweet.
It's going to make me think about trading in my current Mazda 6. And I'm not going to do it, but I'm gonna think about it. I can promise you that.
They're also using that same architecture for like all their upcoming SUVs as well.
Nice. I mean, I feel like they've done well with the like 4-cylinder in everything and then just add a turbo to a 2.5 turbo is... It's not going to move a CX-9 out of your way, but
it's not bad.
They all get good fuel economy, no matter what. Pretty good as far as I know.
CX-9 struggles to get 30.
That I could believe, but it's
big.
massive.
It's big.
Nothing that big gets 30 unless it's a hybrid.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff smaller than that gets much lower mileage. I feel like mid-size crossovers. I mean, not your RAV4 is the only example, but even modern stuff honestly gets like 24, in a mid-size, even with a 4-cylinder. So but Mazda's done pretty well.
I think so. I really like the Skyactiv line of engines. I think it's very cool.
They seem to be pretty reliable. I am probably due for another one of those lovely induction services that blows all the carbon off your intake valves because it's gas direct injection in the 6. I think I have about 96,000 miles on the car now, and I've only done one of those.
I haven't done any on the
At like
Fit.
30 or 40,000, I had one done, and then I just kind of... I told myself I'd do it
Who
every
does
like
that?
30
Does the
to
dealership
40.
do that?
They can. Some of the some like tire and service centers that use like BG products have the whole kit set up. And when my buddy Brad Morris used to work at a tire shop that was all like a BG product shop, he had the whole system. So I took it up there and had him do it one time, and it was like extremely affordable because it wasn't the dealership.
I've seen some kits where they hook up to shop air and they will literally just walnut, like you take the intake manifold off and you walnut blast the backside with the engine, like the head still in the car. You just turn it over so the valves are closed, walnut blast the backside of the valves while
And
it's
then
like
just
vacuuming
it all
out
out.
one side. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I've seen that before.
That's kind of crazy.
I think Corksport actually makes an adapter so you can do it yourself at home for like speed 3s.
That doesn't sound risky.
No.
There's no chance of walnut shells in
Also,
people's engines trying
did
to
you know
homebrew that.
a Mazda Speed 3, I guess also Mazda Speed 6, throttle body costs like $700 from
What?
the delership, and Corksport sells a larger one for $350.
Thanks, Corksport.
There we go. $700.
What?
What's in
What's
there?
it made of?
It's just a normal electric throttle body. It's nothing special.
That's insane.
They just made really low production numbers or something. Like shelves aren't stocked, so you better really want one if you're going to buy one.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like on crazy back order from Mazda when I checked last, but I mean, the price was. I was taken aback. It was-
I don't blame you.
That's
As I
a lot
would
of
have been.
dollars.
Yeah, that's like a lot of dollars.
Many dollars.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like a quarter of an engine for some like affordable
Yeah.
engines for cars. Like, that's preposterous. But then that's dealership supply chains. They kind of get to name their price for stuff.
Yep.
I the only reason my 6 has been at the dealership in 96,000 miles or whatever it's got on it. It's been twice to the dealership. Once because the catalytic converter was clogged at about 70,000 miles. The primary
Why?
cat, I don't know. I don't actually know. It just started throwing codes for cat bank 1 under efficiency. But thankfully, federal emissions warranty is a thing, which I was not aware of. It's federal law mandates that certain emissions equipment like catalytic converters are covered up to 80,000 miles. Even if your car is out of manufacturer warranty, those items are covered by federal emissions warranty.
Interesting.
And so I took it in at like 70 or 75,000 miles, and they replaced the integral exhaust manifold catalytic converter thing.
Those
what would have
manifolds
been
are insane looking.
and
if you've
it,
ever seen one.
I think the parts cost was over $1,000, and the labor would have been at least another 1,000 because you have to drop the subframe. It's like that's one of those transverse engines where the intake is toward the front and the exhaust is on the backside, and it just like ducks under the floorboard between the subframe and the floor, and the cat's attached to it, so they have to take the whole subframe down and stuff. That was done for free, which was dope. The only other reason I took it back was like last month. That car has Mazda's IE loop.
I was going to
system.
bring that up earlier.
It is a Grand Touring, so it has the regenerative braking that feeds a quick discharge capacitor, which just provides extra electrical power and sheds load off the alternator for fuel economy. It was a Grand Touring trim only option. The lower trims just had normal battery alternator, whatever, but they got like 3 to 4 fewer MPG. That battery finally threw it was like battery charging system malfunction. The car still drove fine, but I had a feeling that, I mean, at 4.5 years old and 90,000+ miles, like most cars are, even if it's a normal 12 volt battery, are gonna need a battery, and it's just a specialty battery through Mazda.
It's the actual like battery for the car, not the capacitor system.
Yeah, it apparently is just the IE loop battery. It may all be linked. I'm not 100% sure.
Is it like an AGM battery instead of a lead acid battery?
It's like $500. I can tell you that through the dealership. But I did not want to chance it with any, even if somebody makes an aftermarket one that claims it fits. It just was like, if I get another 90 to 95,000 miles out of the next battery, like one service that was, 500. It was like 580 by the time it was done. They had to reprogram it, which was $60. That was the other thing. There's some reprogramming that goes with that system, and it felt
new car stuff.
Yeah, it felt cheap enough, and that car has not put me out in any way since I've owned it. Really, I have changed all the oil myself. I have just changed the oil, put gas in it, put a set of tires on it, put a set of brakes on it. Like that's it. Besides the cat and now the battery. Everything else about it works, so I'm a pretty happy customer with Mazda recently, and now I own 3 technically until I sell the old one to somebody soon. I need to put it back together soon while the market is still feeling hot, because those cars are like fetching $7-8 grand in certain conditions, and I've got a lot of good parts. It's got rocker rust. It's got the problems. But if anybody out there is looking for like a pretty well sorted NA Miata and Fortune 500s with sway bars and reinforcement brackets and
ready for boost,
good brakes, and ready for a turbo, it'd still be a great car. It's got a good glass window soft top. I know here I am on the podcast trying to sell my car. Yeah, and a roll bar. It really would be a pretty good track platform for somebody who just has a little more time and space and effort to dedicate to it. But with the MR2 tying up the garage and the lift taken down, I cannot have a car in like true project car status, another car in true project car status. The MR2 is taking up that slot. So it's time. I had the NA for, I think I've had it 11 years now. I went to my first track event with it at Hyperfest like 3 years ago. I did a hyperdrive with it. That was my very first like on track experience. I did my first autocross in my own car, in that car. Jordan graciously actually let me do my first ever autocross in the FX. You remember that? Yeah, the last one of the season in like 18 or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, I came out and we co-drove, and that was a lot of fun. The car was a lot different then. I'd actually be really interested to drive it again now and just see like how much. The steering, but you didn't have
just the steering.
You had the conies, but I didn't think you'd finished like all the camber plates. And had you done all that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess it's just the power steering then. And
the car hasn't changed that much.
Alignment and tires.
Alignment's
good stuff.
Bad right now.
Is it?
I haven't had it aligned in like 2 years. It's been a minute.
And you went off track.
Yep. So I'm gonna get it aligned before next season. But I was.
You're doing Dominion, right, in November?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. November 13th. I'll be at Dominion. I have taken both of those rear caliper pins out, and I went and bought some Permatex high temperature thread sealant, or not sealant. It's Permatex brand Loctite. And I used that on the pins in the calipers, so they're not coming out. And then I also JB welded the caps on the calipers, so those aren't coming off. So we should be good now with the rear caliper.
I re-listened to that episode and rewound that section where you're describing the problem like 2 or 3 times. And I was there and saw the thing. I still don't understand how the things go together.
Picture a caliper bracket.
I don't either.
Yeah.
The top slide pin goes on the caliper bracket before you put the caliper on. It just
threads in, and then the slide part just sticks out.
A steel tube that is the slide pin held on by a bolt in the caliper bracket that goes on before the caliper goes on, just for the top one.
And then you just slide the caliper onto the top one, pivot it down,
and then
put a
that top, and then you put the bolt through the bottom. So that top slide pin
Okay, I can
is
picture this
captive inside the caliper. There is no external
And there's no
access.
reason for it to ever come out.
Yeah.
And now Jordan has made sure that there's no reason for it to ever come out.
Okay,
The
so
access
okay.
to that bolt is just a very lightly pressed on sheet metal cap on the rotor that's not supposed to come off, but it came off, and then the bolt was able to come out. So
That
now
ain't
it
gonna
can't.
happen again.
So, but I got you. I'm tracking now. The bolt that holds the pin on comes in from inboard of the car, right?
yes,
And like goes through the
pin
into
the caliper.
the caliper. Okay.
Bracket.
Okay. So is the bracket threaded or is the
Yes.
pin threaded?
The bracket is threaded. The pin is just a hollow tube of metal.
Gotcha. Okay.
With a little ridge for the boot to sit on.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm tracking now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
tracking now.
No, I needed that explanation
Yeah.
too. And now that he's described it, I can picture
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I couldn't picture it before. And then when you were like, I'm going to JB weld this thing in.
Oh, it's on.
I was
there.
like,
It does. There's no reason for it to be a separate
to take
piece.
it apart? Yeah, now I
Right,
understand. that.
right.
Like I'm pretty sure it's only a separate piece because it was cheaper for them to cast the caliper that way and then add the cap to it.
Probably.
Right.
So-
Okay.
Nickels and dimes. Car manufacturing stuff, mass production.
Yeah. So I put those in. I changed the oil. I'm probably gonna need to bleed the brake fluid. And then I also I noticed my tires. I looked at a lot of the pictures from Hyperfest.
I also noticed your tires.
I need more negative camber.
Yes,
I
you
think.
do.
I went full eyeball spec on this and just yeeted my rear camber plates all the way in. So it is full negative right now. I don't know what that is. It probably changed the
It
toe
is
too.
some.
It by doing that I probably gave it some rear toe in, which sure, why not? For one event I'll be fine.
Yeah. Especially at Dominion.
yeah.
It's not as,
It's not
high
the
speed
worst.
of a track.
No. I'll get it. I'm gonna take it over to Delta V. over
It
the
probably
winter and have them
won't.
do
It won't turn in as well.
No.
But it'll be more stable.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. I have a question for you, actually,
Yes.
about brake fluid.
Okay.
What is the deal? That's my Jerry Seinfeld. It's not very good. What is the deal with the Motul stuff? Do you really have to like bleed out 6 inches of brake fluid after every track day? Is it one of
Do you
those
have to? No.
Are you supposed to
After-
like it
I
just
go-
this is
I
why I
basically go-
haven't gone to Motul stuff.
It's not just Motul. It's any time you track your car, the fluid is getting so hot. It's probably a good idea to at least get the fluid that was in the caliper out.
Okay.
So I basically my car is so light and so is yours that you're not working the brakes as hard as say like a Mustang would be,
Or a Kia Stinger.
or apparently for real.
Watching Chris Saltzman like break into turn 1 at VIR is quite a thing because that is a big, heavy car going
Their brakes are not
surprisingly
large.
fast. No, and I don't mean to derail you. It's just that's one of the examples of a car that is just begging its brakes to do a lot of work.
Yeah. I'd like to do it after every 2 events. Same with engine oil. I'll go 2 events on oil and change it.
Yeah, I am kind of out of time to do that, but I told myself I was going to do it before Summit this weekend. I think it'll be fine. I changed it before Hyperfest. So
It'll
I
probably
did.
be all right. And Hyperdrive wasn't that hard on it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of time in the high RPMs. It was the whole session. I know it was only 15
was only
minutes.
one session.
Like 15, 20 minutes. But then I did the whole track day at VIR, except for the one session that got cut short when I spun it and called it a day because I had to drive the car home. And then I did the Blue Ridge Cruise. So it's, yeah.
I haven't changed the oil on the MR2 in like a year and a half.
Well, you barely drive that
That's
car.
yeah. It's gonna be fine. You'll
Yeah.
be all right. Just make sure the level's good.
Yeah, that's really it. I figure I'll check that. But I realized I have to pack tomorrow night for not only this weekend, but for next week, because I'm going to SEMA
What?
for the first time in my life.
What?
This was why I said earlier, if you wanted to ask me what I'm doing next week. I was waiting for my registration to actually get confirmed because this was very last minute. But yeah, my boss is sending me to SEMA, which is hella cool.
Are you like manning a booth, or are you just going there to walk around?
I am going there to walk around. I am going there for work to see what's out there product-wise in our segment of the industry, to learn what we don't know. We stay pretty insulated at our shop. We use the same products day in, day out. You get a little bit tunnel vision, and it's good to get out of your little corner of the industry every now and then and make sure, especially in a small business, that you're in the right place. You're still using the right stuff. There's not something world beating out there that you should know about. So that's the point. My boss went maybe 5 years ago for the same reason, just to see, what was out there. And basically what he came back with was, we're using the right stuff and we're doing the right things and we're going to stick to it. But he felt like it was time for one of us to go again. We're so busy, he can't really justify himself going. So I've worked there 9 years. Finally got the perk of the company paying for me to go to SEMA.
Cool.
Yeah,
that is pretty sweet.
I'm
though.
really stoked. I have been thinking about this since high school. It's like since we all heard of Chip Foose and overhauling and knew like, oh, they're building a car for SEMA. What is I've been hearing about that for forever. So yeah, I'm stoked to go.
Make sure you wear your mask, because I have heard of many people going to SEMA and they all come back with the SEMA ick. What somebody brings something.
I can
you
believe
don't want to
that.
come back with it.
I'm actually gonna try real hard to maybe get my booster tomorrow at lunch if I can line it up at a CVS. But because I'm going to the track this weekend, I built a tire trailer. That's the other thing I recently did. I've had this little Harbor Freight utility trailer for like 2 years. I was going to tow it with my NA. I actually put a hitch on that, and it just was never ready for track duty. So I never bothered building the trailer into a tire-capable trailer with a toolbox and all the stuff that I wanted on it. So this past weekend, shout out, as you guys often do, to Jacob Corbin for having fantastic fabrication tools at
What a
home.
guy.
What a guy.
What a guy.
Pro.
A, being good at fabricating things, and B, just being a super friendly dude and letting me use his stuff. Took it over to his house. He actually came and picked it up at my house, threw it in the back of his truck one night last week, and took it over to his house so it would be waiting there for last weekend. So I went over Saturday and built that. Got it painted over the weekend, so it's like ready to go. I need to set up the tire trailer, hook it up to the car, pack all the stuff for camping at Summit Point this weekend, and then pack my bags because I'm driving the Miata to work on Friday and then leaving from work and going to my parents' house, which is they're like an hour from Summit Point. They're up in like northwestern Virginia area, kind of out like between Warrenton and Luray. So it's going to be way more reasonable to get up Saturday morning and drive from their house to the track after sleeping in a real bed.
Nice.
Than to get up at 3:30 or whatever Adam and Kate always do.
I don't know how they do that.
And then go up there and drive HPDE all day long and then try to like camp and hang out.
And they usually work the events too. They work registration and tech.
I don't understand people that can just wake up like that.
I don't know.
Nor do I.
Young people.
I just
I
do.
couldn't-
I never,
I couldn't
never
do it when I was young.
Never.
Yeah.
I've never
I
been
did
able.
it once to go to Bear Mountain. I stopped at Delaware and woke up at 3 a.m.
If
to go to Bear
I'm
Mountain.
really
It sucked.
excited about an event, I can. That's like the one day a year.
Okay, this is
I can
what
get up at 4 a.m. and just be like, I'm ready to go.
this is what happens
Let's
to
do
me.
it.
I get like, say we're gonna do that, or even worse, you have to make a flight, right?
Oh no, I've slept through
at
a
zero
flight.
at 0 dark 30, right? I get so anxious about having to wake up, or
Yes, you cannot go to
that
sleep.
I can't go to sleep,
Yeah.
and or I'll just like make myself sick with
I get the
anxiety.
anxiety poos.
I'll just like feel like I have to throw up for 12 hours before I go to bed. And it's like,
Yeah.
how are you going to go to bed when you feel like vomiting? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
It doesn't get quite that bad for me, but I do lay there just like, all right, time to go to sleep. Time to go to sleep. 4 hours later, time to go to
Yep.
sleep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Just sleep.
Yeah.
Just close your eyes.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's like,
honey, grab that frying pan. Hit me real good right here.
up brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is terrible. So I am hoping that, going up and staying at my parents' house is going to be
That's a
much
good
more
move.
like chill for
That's
the
a good
evening.
move. Yeah, for sure.
Sleep in a real bed and then get up at not 4 a.m. I think Eric and I met at 4:45 to go down to VIR because it was mandatory drivers meeting tech started at 7.
Lord.
So I met him I got up at 4:15 in the morning and met him at 4:45 at Wawa so that we could leave at 5 and get to the track like at 7 and then get through tech by 8 and then driver's meeting it was just like,
That's why I always go down the night before. It's so much easier.
if Eric had overnight babysitting for friends of theirs' daughter that they watch sometimes, which was the only reason he and I didn't go down the night before or plan a place to stay. He was just like, nah, I got to do that, but we can get up early that morning and I'll go with you. So yeah, we had to leave out stupid early. So I'm trying to avoid that. So I gotta pack everything for both things because then I will come home Sunday night, presumably late from the track, get up and go into work for Monday morning just to like get the week rolling, and then I fly out at like 2 in the afternoon or 3, somewhere around there for Vegas. And then I'll be in Vegas for the
Take
week.
many pictures.
That's so awesome.
I will as much as I can without them smacking my camera out of my hand and going, meh. Media only. I'm sure.
On.
They already sent the email that's like, no videos and no this and no. It's like, okay, I just want to come enjoy your event. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a little worried because it's an industry only event. And so you have to prove that you work in the automotive industry to attend. It's not open to the general public, which is like, that's pretty easy, but we just didn't have quite the right documentation ready, and I did all this stuff 2 days ago, Monday. I planned all this stuff and booked the flights and the hotel and registered for the event, and then waited until today before they said your registration's approved. So I was nervous for 2 days and not sure that I was actually going to get to go, because I thought, like, if I get to Monday, like, we're just going to have to cancel the trip if they never approve me to actually go to the event. I just was afraid it was too late. They're scrambling. They're not getting through applications for registration, but thankfully they did in a couple of days, and yeah, stoked. I'm ready. Yeah, that should be
That's
really
awesome.
fun. So I will make sure to come back and tell y'all how SEMA goes.
100%.
Yeah, I've had a pretty stacked automotive world in the past.
Crazy.
I think I've only had the ND for maybe 3 months now, and in that time I put brakes, sway bars, springs, tires, and a roll bar on the car, which was pretty much all I wanted to do to it. I put a seat lowering bracket in it. I think I would like to put bucket seats in it. I am a slimly built person, and the stock seats are okay, but it's not the Recaros. It's just the stock like sport seats or whatever. The side bolstering is just like 4 inches too wide, and
He's a very skinny boy.
I did find at VIR I was just hanging onto the steering wheel through like turn 1, like the stuff that really sweeps for a long time. I'm just like curved like a shrimp to one side with my ribs up against and just hanging onto the steering wheel, and that's not a comfortable way to drive. So I have a couple of Recaro pole positions that were given to me by a dude that races BMWs and Audis, I think he's done, but like spec E30, E36 type stuff. And they, of course, all their safety gear has to be like within certification. They all run out after 2-3 years, and so they're pulling them out of the car and then putting new ones in. And so he said he had like 5 sitting in a shed, which were like perfectly good Recaro bucket seats.
That's the nice thing about HPDE is you're not required to have super current safety equipment. As
Yeah.
long as it's installed properly, you're all right.
Well, I had to, he has a super cool, he's got a couple really cool cars, but he's got a super cool 993 911 in oak green, which is like a paint to sample kind of forest green color. Beautiful. Satin black wheels. Like everything is just very understated besides like the gold Porsche crest, which is gold on like all of them. But it's a nice offset, just gorgeous car. And he lives out in Keswick, which is like most of the way to Charlottesville, probably 45-minute drive from my work. And the only way that we could get the car down to our shop, or the easiest way, because he was going to be out of town or something, was he let us come pick it up and let me drive it from there back to the shop. And he has 2 of these pole positions in that car, and driving it back to the shop, I was like, this seat fits me perfectly. Like, I don't need to even look for a seat. All I got to do is ask this guy, like,
which size
what is this seat? What size is it? Whatever. Because that's just when I get race car stuff together, I'm going to buy one of these because it's perfect. And that's when I asked him, like, what seats are those? He was like, yeah, I actually have like 5 identical ones just sitting in a shed. Like two of them are in my Sims, and then I think I've got like 3 more spares, and you can just have them. I can't put them in the race cars.
Like $1,000 seats.
Yeah. The only problem is one is missing just the back pad, just the mid back pad. It's got the bottom and it's got the shoulder and everything. Headrest is all padded. It just needs a back pad. The other one is missing the back and the bottom pads, and it's hard to buy just seat cushions for race seats. You could. It'd be nice to have the ones that are like pre-made, just Velcro, stick them in there and off you go, especially for the one that's just missing the back pad. They're really hard to find. I considered putting those in the MR2, but I think it's going to stay more of a street car, so it will probably just retain the stock seats, which I like. They're pretty good.
They're very comfortable
for street stuff, yeah. So I think I might try to get those pole positions together and then put those in the ND for track stuff, because that's the one other problem Miatas tend to have, is getting low enough. I'm very tall in the torso and very short in my legs. I like a very upright seating position, and the problem with that is when it comes to like broomstick test and clearing a roll bar with a helmet on, VIR's rule is broomstick plus 2 inches.
That's so crazy.
Now, I have not seen them be hard line on that, but that's crazy. Like, if you're taller than 5'4", you cannot do that in a Miata of any maybe the NC, I don't know, but like the roll bars can only go so high and still be able to fold the top up, and you can only get the seat so low. Like, that's why Jacob Corbin hasn't gone to the track yet in his. He would have to do a floor drop and put like a Kirky with no pads in it just to get anywhere close to a broomstick plus 2-inch clearance from his roll bar. So that's the tough thing. I put a seat lowering bracket in the ND. It got me down to like roll bar plus a 1/2 inch from my helmet. And they let me run at the Porsche track day. Nobody even checked. They didn't make me sit in the car. They were just like, yep, you passed tech. But I'm a little nervous that the first, like, if I try to go to a NASA HPDE and I roll up and they're like, they put me through tech and that's one of the things they check, they'll just be like, sorry, you can't run here. I've wasted my money for the whole weekend.
Yeah.
So I may try to do some like PCI brackets or something, planted, or one of those that's got like aftermarket, just stamped metal brackets, fixed brackets for bucket seats, and try to put that thing absolutely down on the floor, and then hope that gets me close enough that you just scooch forward a little bit and just
slouch a little.
No, this is my comfortable driving position, obviously. My butt's like 4 inches forward in the seat. But that's Summit Point is just broomstick. Like, as long as you're below it, you're good. And I think most tracks are. So I don't, like, even 1 inch is hard to, like, I just don't know. You'd basically have to be sitting on the floor of the car, and then, like, I can't see out the windshield at that point. Like, what am I supposed to do? So it's, I guess, the one tough thing about tracking Miatas, unless you put a hard top on them. And that's the other thing I've heard, is like nobody will ever make you, especially if it's a hard bolted on hard top, like in a spec Miata, nobody will ever make you unbolt your hard top to check it. And I'm not saying I don't believe in like safety regulations and safety gear. Like, I absolutely do. And like, within reason, people still have to be able to afford to go to the track and do stuff like this. Yeah, there should be requirements. I know your helmet story was like, it was a pain, but
it makes sense. But like, at least I wouldn't have been mad if it was a consistently applied rule.
Sure. And maybe all I could think was maybe it's supposed to be, and you basically just got lucky multiple times.
Maybe.
And then just the one time they're like, hey, the rule is actually, SA 2015 or whatever, but that automotive versus motorcycle Snell. But I do believe in that stuff. It's just like, there's certain things I feel like I can't see how you could even physically achieve them in a given platform.
No convertible could reasonably do that unless it was a dedicated speedster.
But if it's a modern convertible with the exploding deployable rollover protection like BMW Z4s and Mercedes convertibles and stuff, they'll let you run if it has that. But the Miata doesn't, and the factory roll hoops rightfully don't account for anything as far as track safety gear, because they're having taken them off of my car. I don't know if you guys have ever seen them outside the little plastic shells. It is aluminum tubing, which is pretty thin wall, and it is MIG welded on with 2 or 3 little 1-inch welds to another. It just absolutely looks like it would fold over the second the car went at any speed. If you rolled over at really low speed, the car just basically turned over. I bet they would hold
that
up.
Mustang at Summit Point in that video. He literally, did you see that video?
I don't think I did.
No.
There's a
I've
guy
not.
in a SN95, I think it was a convertible at Summit Point, and he had some kind of brake issue going into turn 1. So he's doing a little over 100 miles an hour and gets squirrely, goes off the track, and slides sideways through the gravel into the tire wall. And then the slowest rollover I have ever seen, he goes boop into the tire wall, and the car just goes blomp right under the roof.
back toward the direction he came.
Yeah.
The tire wall
It
finally
bounced.
stopped him, and then he.
Yeah, it bounced him back. Yeah, and it was the slowest rollover I have ever seen in my entire life. It was hilarious. But even then, the entire windshield frame crushed in, and if he hadn't had a roll bar, he would have been in trouble.
Yeah.
Even at that super low speed rollover, it's really important.
Yeah, for sure. So, like I say, I do believe in that stuff and having proper safety gear. It's just it's a strange regulation, it seems to me. I haven't been to a million tracks. I haven't looked at the regs at a lot of tracks. But from what I've heard from people like Eric, from guys who've driven Miatas specifically and done track stuff at a bunch of different places, VIR is the only, the total one-off place that has this, crazy, extra 2-inch... you'd have to be 5'6" or shorter. I can't see how you do
Stuff
it.
like that is often written after something terrible has happened. So there must have been a crash at some point that was particularly terrible, and that's why that rule exists. It's 'cause somebody got hurt really bad one time.
Probably, yeah. Unfortunately, I guess that is how a lot of those rules get written. Corey, did you see any strange or cool vehicles on your very long road trip?
No, I don't think I saw anything. I was gonna bring up one more bit of news that Chevy released their new crate motor, the 623ZZ.
I saw this.
1,000 horsepower, naturally aspirated, 10.5 liter motor. Absolutely insane.
So bonkers.
What
It's
do you
so
put
big.
that in that's not a boat?
A C3 Corvette.
That's actually a really good answer.
That's what I know crate motors wind up going in all the time. People restore the car, and the engines from back then were terrible.
God awful.
And so you just buy a crate motor, and boy, if you could shoehorn that one in there and crack
could
every
just snap
fiberglass
it in
panel.
half.
Yeah,
Show-
the first time you launch.
Show trucks. I mean, I don't know. Rock crawlers.
Trucks,
drag
probably
trucks.
old C10s and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Guys are gonna put them in those.
I mean,
but-
as far as I know, it's the same big block architecture
Novas.
that they've been running. It's just more.
drag stuff, Novas, Chevelles, probably.
Yeah, but that's just insane.
Yeah, 1,000
NA.
horsepower NA
Yeah.
crate motor.
Yeah.
Just for sale to the general
Yeah,
public.
I remember when they launched the was it the 527 big block they had for a while that was 700 horsepower NA or something like that, really crazy. It was on Power Block TV on one of those shows. They put it in like a 57 Bel Air or something along those lines.
Dear God.
And put a T6 transmission behind it, and it got 26 miles to the gallon.
Wow.
Because you could basically just idle in sixth gear.
Just needed no throttle.
Yeah, you basically didn't have to open the throttle to drive the car around.
It's just like absolutely sipping fuel.
Yeah.
That's
with a 6-speed behind it, like
torque.
Insane,
torque, baby.
Insane.
That's the nice thing about a lot of the V8 cars at work, where it's like, if it has a manual, you don't even have to touch the gas to get it to move. You just let the clutch out.
Just ease the clutch out, put it back in.
It
coast.
just goes.
Yeah, very true. We've had a 21 Ford GT Heritage Edition in the shop for far too long.
I'm surprised
that thing's pretty cool.
I thought they stopped making those. Are they still making them through 21?
Well, no, it's still a brand new car. It's just been sitting. It's a Ford dealership owner's car. Technically, I think it's a dealer car. It hasn't been sold yet, so it's still new and unsold from 21. But yeah, it's a 21 Heritage Edition, so it's like the Ken Miles throwback livery. If you saw Ford versus Ferrari, the sort of red, white, and dark blue that they did on his GT40 race car that he won Le Mans with.
Yeah.
It is done the same livery pattern, but all the dark blue is just masked off exposed carbon fiber bodywork. So it's red, white, and carbon fiber, which is pretty cool. And when I first saw the pictures of the car before we went to figure out how the hell to get it to our shop, which was a whole task in and of itself, he wound up driving it. Ridiculous. When I saw the pictures of it, I was afraid all that stuff was vinyl. And I was like, boy, MSRP on that car is like $715, I think, as spec to that one. And I was like, oh boy, they just did like vinyl graphics all over it, didn't they? And I was so pleased when I showed up to see it's all done with paint. It's all clear coated over. Like
that's cool.
It's proper.
It's worth its price tag.
Yeah, as much as anything can be with an EcoBoost V6.
They make a lot of power.
They do. I respect them. There's just something, I don't know, all the sense of occasion that the styling has to that car. It just feels underwhelming.
It demands like a V10.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Even a gnarly V8 with a supercharger like they did in the 05
That's
through
why those
09
cars are,
GTs or
the
whatever.
values have gone through the roof.
It's because when you fire that thing up, it sounds like it looks. Like you're just like, hell yeah, that's what that should sound like.
Exactly.
When you push the button and the EcoBoost V6 turns over, like it
sounds like an Explorer.
With an Akrapovic exhaust. It's kind of what it sounds like.
There's some
it's
downpipes
just a
on
little
your ST.
disappointing. That thing's pretty cool. We're tired of looking at it. It's been in the shop for like a month and a half because we took it in when our schedule was already really full, and then
my sweet summer child.
Just told him that we were gonna fit it in. Oh yeah, I'm sure you know all about that.
We have cars in the shop that have been there since before I got there a year and a half
You're
ago.
waiting on parts though.
No, we're not. It's just taking forever to get them right, and it's really most of them are old pieces of crap that have completely unrealistic goals.
That's
frustrating.
fair, but we're not waiting on any of that stuff. We're just waiting on us to literally have time, and that's the struggle. I was there. What's today? Wednesday. I left work at 6:45 today, and that felt early because I was there till midnight last night working on the GT. To try to get it done. Like all we can do is just work on it after hours. Like the work day ends and then the second work day begins.
I hope you're hourly.
That's crazy.
I am.
Good.
I am. So there is that. I'm at like 34 hours this week.
Dope.
Yeah. So I'll be hitting OT before I fly out to Vegas. Which
Excellent.
should be all right.
Steve, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun.
Oh, I was glad to
Absolutely.
come. Sorry if I just talked and talked and talked. I feel like Z talked a good bit. Hi, Z.
No,
so
I mean,
it should be allowed, I guess, when you have a guest on. But
yeah, that's
you
why
bring
we
a guest on so that they can talk about the things
guess.
that they know about.
Yeah,
that's what it's for.
That's why we
and
bring
damn it,
guests
I've
on.
sponsored this show all season.
For sure.
I've earned the right. Sponsorship may or may not include actual money. No, thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun. It's always
fun.
good to sit around and have a beer and chat with the fine folks.
Yeah, that's literally why we do this.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
because like we just want
true.
to sit around and talk about car stuff. you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I'm trying to think of if you had me on another time, and maybe I don't know if it's too much complexity with Pierce with 4 people. Miss you, Pierce. But if you have me back again, I'll try to bring some other. I feel like. So here's the thing. I know you guys kept joking about we got to finally have Steve on the show this season, and so every time I'd see like a cool car, I'd be like, oh yeah, I got to remember to mention that to the guy, and I've forgotten all of it.
Yeah, of course.
You asked me about
yeah.
my stuff, and
Yeah.
I rambled for an hour, and then I was like, I don't remember anything cool. I did see after you guys. I will say, here's the one I remember real quick when you guys talked about the most mediocre car of all time.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll take it. Go ahead.
So excited about this right
and
now.
you settled on that era Galant, specifically in beige. The next day,
no.
I pulled into the parking lot at work, and someone who works in the building owns one in beige, and I literally never saw. They've probably worked there the whole 3 years I've been working in this building. I never saw it until then, and that was it. I was like, confirmed. It is by far the most mediocre car of all time. I have physically not. It's
Doesn't
like a
register as
phantom.
an
It doesn't
object.
register as a car. It's an object. It doesn't. Yeah, I just was really. I wanted you guys to know that you nailed it. You absolutely like. I
That's
saw.
amazing.
I
Good.
saw one out on the
Good.
road. I was like, I know I've been seeing these, but I haven't seen them. I haven't noticed them for years.
They are among us.
Yeah, they're out there.
You guys
They're
are
still out
soothsayers. I don't know.
After you like spoke them back into existence. So I thought you'd appreciate that one.
That's fantastic.
All right, plugs, Jordan. Where
Oh.
can we follow you?
I'm on Instagram at The Daily Downshift. I have a blog with more detailed car things at The Daily Downshift.
He does. I'd like you to teach me how to do a blog because I hit the Instagram caption limit on my last one. I was like, it's time to get a blog, I guess. I'm way too verbose for Instagram. I
just
feel
do it
bad.
through Google's. I think Google bought Blogspot, and now it's just called like Blogger or whatever.
And if
So
you have a
it's-
Google account,
Yeah.
it just
cool. Yeah,
I may do that. I get
you get your own URL. It's nice.
Yeah. I get a little wordy on my Instagram posts, I know, and you said you enjoy that.
I do.
I really took that to
I do
heart
too.
when you said
Yeah.
you enjoyed reading them because I was like, God, nobody hits show more on these.
I do every time.
Oh God, Steve's at it again. I literally, I finished in the first comment on my last one. I was like, oh, and I forgot to mention in the second picture, it's just my stupid tire trailer. But yeah, I am on Instagram at @IamUnderSteer. Doesn't really apply anymore.
What did it used to apply to?
You see how I cleverly baited him into asking me about it?
That was very cleverly
Thank
done,
you. I
Steve.
just snuck it right in there. I'll try to tell that story extremely quickly. Way back in high school, early car days with friends, like 4 or 5 people in our group, because of things that had happened to them in their early driving experiences, got assigned understeer, oversteer, countersteer. 3 of us who were super into driving, and then a couple of our other friends got custom. We had T-shirts made that just literally. I had a black T-shirt with giant block white letters that just said understeer, because I understeered my dad's Mustang into a fence. Hi, Dad. The roads were
Sponsor of
wet.
this podcast.
Yeah, it's my dad, the new sponsor. I'll have to let him know. 99 Mustang V6 automatic. I just took a more than 90-degree turn onto a road that I thought was a 90-degree turn. A little too fast in the rain, and I just turned. I was, 16, 17.
It
I'd
happens.
just gotten my license. I just didn't know cars that well. I was like, it's a Mustang. Turn the wheel. It'll go. It's a sports car. And the road was wet, and it just went did not make the turn and went through a bush and halfway into a fence. And thankfully, it bent the lower core support a little bit, but didn't bust the radiator, didn't break anything substantial, scratched the hood, it polished out. The car was fine. I lucked out. so my buddy Jason was counter steer because he had a 90 Chevy Caprice, which was one of those like remaindered cop cars that was stripped back down for the street. And he would just whip the tail out everywhere in the snow, in the rain, like one wheel wonder, open diff.
That's amazing.
So
That's
he was
amazing.
counter steer. Our friend Dan was oversteer. Like that's the background. So I am understeer when I was still on live journal, something
boy.
AIM, like way
Wow.
back in the day. And then at some point you just get lazy, and
That is what it is.
you are who you are indefinitely.
It's a
unless you think
solid
of something
internet handle.
new and
It is
clever.
pretty good.
I won't lie.
I just feel like it doesn't apply because now I drive like
Rear-wheel drive.
rear-wheel
cars.
drive cars for sporty stuff, and almost never do I find myself understeering into a bad situation. But it is what it is. I established the name early, and darn it, I'm going to keep it because it's easy to remember. Corey is at c.crehan
It's .crehan. Yeah.
C.
C.crehan.
for good food and rip pants.
That's right.
I've heard it enough
As
times.
always.
I can deliver it now.
Thank you all very much for listening.
We're also at Beer and Backfire Podcast
On the things.
on the things.
Oh, yeah,
Is
we
it
have-
just at Beer
I
and
think it's-
Backfire on Instagram?
I think it's
Yeah.
at Beer and Backfire on Instagram.
It is.
We do have an email address. It's either I think it's Beer and Backfire.
Podcast.
It's either Beer and Backfire at gmail.com.
Hi, folks.
Or
We don't know. Hi, folks. Welcome back. We've just checked our.
God. It's either Beer and Backfire at gmail.com or Beer and Backfire Podcast at gmail.com. I don't remember.
It's beerandbackfire@gmail.com.
Okay,
Well, there
very
we
good.
go.
Yeah.
All right. At least we're consistent.
Very good.
Anyway,
Is that a wrap?
that's it.
Awesome.
All right. Bye.
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 I am not going to lie to you. I went to 7-Eleven, right
Yeah.
wherever
Other
it
way.
is.
There.
Other way.
It's right
That way.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gave me a cashback option. I hit no, but then it didn't respond. And then I was like, what if I get $5 and I hand it to them? Then I'm literally their sponsor. And then
Oh,
I hit
no.
and then I hit $5 and then it took the no that I told it the first time. I was like, well, I guess these guys aren't getting my money.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But I thought about it.
That's really funny.
I thought about it.